cruising the cosmos on his board, surfing subspace eddies from solar system to solar system, through nebulas, wrestling with his conscience alone, boundless power and naked humility at the same time. And a naked guy on a surfboard in space, of course, because he's all silver and one of the sleekest designs and the coolest characters, one of my favorites, and my wife thinks he's just super lame. Today, on Graphic Adaptations, we're talking about the Silver Surfer. Now, with a character like the Silver Surfer, we really need to break down the very basics of the character and run. Otherwise, it won't make sense what we're looking at and why. I'll try and make this brief because I think most people are familiar or have seen the movie with him in it, so I will focus more on an overview of the comic. So the Silver Surfer starts as a side character in 1966 in Fantastic Four, way back in the early days. In issue 48, Galactus the World Destroyer comes to Earth with his herald, the Silver Surfer. The Surfer is imbued with the power cosmic, and he scouts ahead and books the venues for Galactus's dinner dates. This time, it's Earth, and the Fantastic Four convince the Surfer to spare Earth. When he turns on Galactus, he gets landlocked on Earth as punishment, and Galactus moves on and gets a new herald. In 1968, Stan Lee gives the Surfer an ongoing series with art by the master John Buscema that runs for 18 issues. Eventually, he frees himself and is again able to surf through the stars, but for these 18 issues, he's stuck on Earth, and I would consider all of this Phase 1 of Surfer lore. Then, in 1987, about 20 years later, Marvel launches a new ongoing for the Surfer, and it runs for 145 issues. This series has the best-known adventures, the introduction of Thanos to the Marvel Universe, the Infinity Gauntlet, the Infinity War. All of this stuff springs out of this run, and throughout, the Surfer expands his roster of characters. For example, Galactus doesn't just replace the Surfer once. No, he has a number of heralds who are given the power cosmic: Nova, Airwalker, Terrax, Firelord, and eventually this all culminates in the Herald Ordeal, a story where they have to band together to stop a new psychotic emissary named Morg. This series has numerous artists and writers, but the main series-defining artist is Ron Lim. He's an incredibly steady and reliable penciler who delivers a professional sheen to his work, and the reflections on the Surfer specifically, they're just always so clean. Why wasn't Lim asked to join Image Comics, or why didn't he just pitch them a creator-owned book of his own choice, since he was in the scene at the exact same time as them? This is what I consider the second phase for the Surfer, his longest running monthly and his most relevant time as a character. Now, I started my Surfer collection with issue 21, trying to get the light on it here. I found it in a back issue bin on Kingsway at the old Comic Emporium, which is now long closed. I got it for like $3 with some back issues of Dark Horse Star Wars, the Tales from the Jedi, or Tales of the Jedi. I don't know what made me pick this book. Maybe it was like the Art Deco font that they had done here, right? It kind of looks like a chrome bumper from American Graffiti. This ridiculous bad guy on the cover, the Obliterator, right? And the third phase of Surfer, I guess you would call the modern age, and that's comprised of a number of sporadic miniseries. Mike Allred tried a series. I liked Trad Moore's the best. Ron Lim has even come back to do 2 miniseries for the Surfer after a 28-year break. These various series are hit and miss, but the Surfer hasn't really been able to sustain a long-running monthly in quite some time. Now, this might have something to do with his big screen appearance being such a letdown. I mean, let's not gloss over the fact that the Infinity War is a Silver Surfer story, and Disney had to do it without him, right? So he was robbed of his most iconic moment in comics history. Fox, of course, had the rights to the Fantastic Four characters, and we had to endure his live-action on-screen debut in 2007. He had the Morpheus voice, and you'd think that doing the liquid metal T-1000 15 years after the technology had been created would be no big deal, but in Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, he comes across as unreal and flat and nothing but a special effect. He was the best, and he was the best part of that movie, right? So we're not going to be looking at that train wreck. Instead, I want to look at the short-lived animated series from the 90s that truly tries to capture the spirit of the comics. Now, usually, if I do a video like this, I'll read whatever the subject matter is, a mini-series or a specific run that corresponds with the movie or a series that we're comparing it to, something that complements it. But this time, I didn't really do that. The TV series is interesting because it's pulling from multiple series from different eras and rewriting parts anyway to make it work for this format. I own most of the 145 issues of the Ron Lim Phase 2 series, and I've read them all at some point. I've also been picking up the Marvel Epic collections as they've been coming out the last few years, and I've read the Infinity Gauntlet, of course, as well as the less than satisfying Infinity War and Infinity Crusade, and Warlock and the Infinity Watch, and they're all spin-off books. And so, while I don't pretend to be an expert on the Surfer, I am most definitely a fan and feel pretty well versed, enough for this video at least. So this TV series comes out in 1998, and right from the opening credits with their operatic vocals instead of a children's jingly theme song, you have a sense that you're in pretty good hands. Now here's what's great about the series. It's the Jack Kirby Surfer. The look is exactly right. And then, sure, it doesn't include the Fantastic Four, and so the continuity gets played around with for his origin and subsequent characters, like the inclusion of Thanos as his nemesis for the series. That happens right at the start. But it's consolidating all the best quintessential elements of the Surfer universe to give us a condensed version. We get Nova, and Pip the Troll, and Nebula, Gamora, the Skrulls, and Drax the Destroyer, and Thanos, though he doesn't worship Lady Death, but instead Lady Chaos, which I think works well enough. We see Ego the Living Planet, and the Watchers, and Beta Ray Bill. Come on, man!
A new twist. No challengers ever questioned anyone before.
And I think they got all the characters right enough. Like, their voices and motivations for the most part are pretty close, even if some details are changed to simplify their origins or motivations. Like, Drax is the big dopey brute from the comic, not so much the Guardians movie, but this time he's in a cyborg body. Alright. Or Mentor is Thanos' brother in the show, instead of his father like in the comics. He has a brother in the comics as well, Star Fox, but this I think just consolidates the two, and, you know, things like that. Okay, except Thanos' voice is a bit tough to bear now that we all have Josh Brolin's rumbling, low bassy voice in our head.
Lady Chaos, my twin flame, I thank you for the release, the joy that our love brings, and offer you this small gift of annihilation.
But in my opinion, again, story-wise, I don't think there's anything here that's egregious or insulting as a fan. The series also has a continuous story developing from episode to episode. You get individual adventures, like when the Surfer has to go into Galactus's body to help him purge a sickness inside of him, but it's as a returning character with an established history, so the series becomes richer as the episodes develop. Everybody looks right, including Galactus, who's rendered in 3D animation, which I think gives him an otherworldly, godly quality, and I think it worked quite well. The blending of traditional cel-drawn animation and CG animation works for space stories surprisingly well. Like, much like the Green Lantern animated series, which was all 3D animated, it just worked so much better than the Batman series that aired at the same time. And similar to the Green Lantern animated series, Silver Surfer was over after 13 episodes, cut down before it had a chance to develop into something more. So it stands as an interesting artifact of pop culture and possibly the best representation of the Silver Surfer on screen. I think it's really a crime that we didn't get a second season or a chance for these characters to develop and for the story to develop. I'm sure that they would have, seeing as how they were going, they would have done something like the Infinity Gauntlet at some point, and the way that they were building out all of his characters, we wouldn't have seen Spider-Man and Wolverine getting hacked up by Thanos, but we would have seen a lot of characters. It would have been really cool. Now, this isn't the most impressive piece of animation or an absolute must-see series, but in 1998, this is truly a worthy effort, and I think it's aged incredibly well. The rudimentary style reminds me of Star Trek Animated from the 70s, where the stories and the spirit override the rougher edges of limited production means. This series deserves a second season, no doubt. I think that what I like about the series best is that it didn't try to spice up the concept or tone. A lot of the comic stories focus on the Surfer kind of moping through space, contemplating the nature of his soul and pontificating morality, and that can get a little bit tedious, I'll admit. All the contemplating, constantly lamenting. And the show doesn't really care. It stays true to the book and character. Like, they could have given him a sidekick, or a ship with guns, or like made a teen version of the Silver Surfer that was like, yeah, dude, I'm surfing. But like, they didn't. And that integrity, I think, really helps this series. Oh, and the Kirby spots, they're everywhere. Okay, and that's almost everything. I know some of you thought I didn't notice, but I did. And I noticed that you didn't notice something. So yes, between the Englehart run in the 60s and the Ron Lim series in the 80s, there was a 2-issue arc by another titan of comic art, Mobius, which is famously referenced in Crimson Tide as part of a rewrite by Quentin Tarantino.
Well, I said that the Kirby Silver Surfer was the only real Silver Surfer, and that the Mobius Silver Surfer was shit. And Benefield's a big Mobius fan, and things got out of hand. I pushed him, he pushed me.
I mentioned before in previous videos, but I have a poster in my bathroom of the Mobius Surfer. So yes, I was aware. But what you might not have noticed, and I only noticed a couple years ago after being a fan for so long, he has no ears. Bro has no ears. He's got no ears. Did you notice his absence of lobes? Do you have a favorite run of the Surfer? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for liking and subscribing. And if you didn't, well, there's not much I can do about that. And now I'm going to be wondering why you wouldn't want to help me out. I'm going to be thinking about it all day. I'm going to be thinking about it all week. And in 7 days, regardless of how I feel about that, I'm going to be back with another video. So I'll see you next week.